Hello everybody, welcome back to Fanblade. Following on from the fiasco of the last episode's editing schedule, we are just picking up randomly in the middle of me in the garage, marking out the depth of the binding channels in preparation for carving the body. Alright, that is both bodies carved out. I didn't take off quite as much as I was going to for the back carve there, just because I just didn't really feel like it needed it. That's going to be comfy enough as the thing sort of sits on you. You know, there's no reason to take off any more than that. It's going to be perfectly comfortable. Oh, and nice and light too, by the way. I think both of these bases are going to come in slightly under, or maybe just on 4 kg, so that's very, very good. It's getting on in the evening. The last thing I need to do tonight before finishing up is installing the binding. Now, it's been so long since I bought this binding plastic that I cannot remember if it is ABS or PLA, and I simply can't remember. I've got 3 bits of it left. I'm going to use 2 of them today. Installing it can be a little bit tricky though. It doesn't like to bend around super sharp corners. It will just snap. It'll just break if you try and bend it too far. So I'm going to use the heat gun to heat it up, just to soften it just a little bit, but you have to be very, very careful, because this stuff, as the temperature rises, it goes from too cold, too cold, too cold, too cold, liquid. Instantly. You can absolutely ruin the thing if you get it too hot. So very, very carefully. I'm going to start just by taping it in place around the body to sort of hold it where it's going to go, and then I'll have to bend all that in place, and then once I've got everything sort of taped in and shaped the way it should be, and of course they'll be meeting there because I'll be cutting that section out anyway for the neck pocket. Once it's all in place, that's when I'll start dropping super glue in, and specifically not using water thin super glue. I'm using the slightly thicker gel stuff because it fills up more gaps and it doesn't dribble everywhere and make a mess. I will be wearing gloves, I will be wearing a mask because it stinks to high heaven, and I do not want to ruin the rest of my holidays by gluing my fingers to my face. So now it is time to effectively draw the thing out full scale so that I can get accurate measurements off the neck. Most of the time you would actually want to start with this step so that you know what you're building, but like I already have the templates, everything's sort of worked out, I know roughly how big everything has to be, but now is the time when I do actually need some accurate measurements on the neck. So I'm going to start with the centre line, measure the scale length 850 so I can mark out a place for the bridge and the nut, and then work out what my widths are going to be, and then probably draw the shape of everything in anyway so we can see what it's all going to look like. It's really just basic drawing skills at this point. Make sure you've got a sharp pencil. Alright, that has got everything marked out. I had to remark my headstock shape simply because when I drew these I hadn't accounted for the length of the nut there. So the tip was sort of hanging off the edge of where the actual wood ends. So yes, but that's all now lined up. Holes are marked out, they are ready to be drilled. Spade bit, not going all the way through, you go sort of halfway, then flip the thing and go in from the other side, and they should meet up in the middle because everything's fairly well flat. It should be, yes, should be good. I need to radius the necks, and I've also had an idea, because I've gone to all the trouble to book match the top of the headstock. I'm actually going to try and inlay my logo into the top as well. Why not take a beautiful thing and screw it up by doing something I don't know how to do? What I'm actually going to do is use the pantograph just to sort of engrave the logo as opposed to inlay it. That's probably an important distinction to make. It's also an entire afternoon faster and a whole lot of heartache safer. So, yeah, right, getting on with it. Alright, here is the radius sanding jig all set up and ready to go. Nothing is going to move. That's just absolutely set perfectly rigidly. I am doing a 14-inch radius. Not actually my preference. I kind of prefer a little bit more. I'd love to do a 10, but I've cut the fingerboard a little bit too thin on both of them. So by the time you do a 10-inch radius on them, yeah, there's going to be like 1 millimeter along each edge. It's not really enough. So yeah, so 14 it is, and yeah, apart from that, it's just a lot of manual labour, just back and forth. Put on a podcast and get into it. Okay, that is both necks cut out and radiused. That's a lot of work. But we got there. That's actually the hardest part of this whole process, is doing all that by hand. Yes, there are easier ways to do it. No, I don't have any of those ways available to me. So I got on with it. I put a little bit of gold paint into the cutouts here, just because the plan is to fill this with some clear setting resin. But the gold paint that I've put in, I'm not really happy with it. It's sort of, as it dried, it sort of went very, very dark and dull. So I've been out to the shop, and I've got my favourite kind of test pot for multicoloured enamel paint. Dollar store nail polish. Comes with its own brush. So dries hard, dries fast. I'm going to paint a little bit of this in there, and then I'll mix up a little bit of resin, dribble them in, and then they can sit there for 24 hours and set hard, and then yeah, I'll pretty much be able to finish the necks off. Well, I say finish them, I mean carve them and do everything else that needs to be done to a neck to make it finished. But yeah, one more step in the process ticked off. Alright, it is the next morning. Going to do a lot of work on the bodies because they need a lot of work done to them. I know that these can look absolutely stunning, and right now they don't, and that is annoying me. Before I do that, though, I want to actually cut the control cavities, because I don't want to do all this and then get all this looking nice, and then I have to clamp that side down to the cast iron bed of the pantograph. So I'll do that first. I have found a couple of control cavity covers that I already cut ages ago. These are just acrylic. Don't mind the green, that's just the protective coating. They are clear on the inside. Never judge a control cavity cover by its cover. Here is where they are going. The controls are going to be basically a parallel series switch, a volume and a tone. That's it, dead simple. I might even have the jack front mounted as well, haven't decided yet. I'll see if there's space. As far as the pickups are going to go, I'm thinking Music Man style, some sort of dual coil humbucking kind of a thing. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out my designs for that. But yes, that will have a series parallel switch, and then just a volume and a tone. And if I squish all of them together, I'll get an output jack in there as well, which will save having to drill into the edge of the body. Although, I do like an edge mounted. I'll figure it out as I go. So that's the first thing, is to stick these on the pantograph and just sort of carve out the outline of these, and then I come in with a Forstner bit and just hog out all the material in the middle. Shouldn't take too long, especially if I know that I don't have to be too careful about protecting the top just yet. Then yeah, I can just sort of go for gold on that. Let's go for gold. Alright, that's some good progress on the bodies. They're sanded out to 120. There's still quite a bit of work to do on them. Like little bits. Like sanding in the lower cutaway of any instrument is, yeah, it's just a nightmare. I don't have anything that can get in there except for my hands, so I just need to spend a bit of time and get in there. There's a few other little bits to just tidy up a little bit. Like I'm sorely tempted to just put some finish on this just to see how it looks, but it's not time yet. I need to be patient. Speaking of being patient, the resin is nearly cured. If I press my thumb into it, then I am leaving a visible thumbprint, but then if I do that, I can smooth the thumbprint out. So it's not completely hardened yet, but it's certainly hard enough that we can work on it. Basically, yeah, standard neck carving procedure. Get a really sharp rasp and carve in the curve at one end, carve in the curve at the other. Then I'm going to cheat just slightly. Once I've got those two grooves carved, I'm going to take a slice just freehand on the bandsaw a long way away from the line that I will mark, so I'm not in danger of going too deep, but just to cut that big, thick corners off. Saves a lot of time. So I'll be doing that. The thing that I need to be careful of, though, is the fact that this angle here means that I have to cut a curve straight across here, but then I have to cut a curve on a crazy angle across there. And I need to measure out exactly where that's going to be, because, yeah, getting it in the wrong place would be a bad move at this point. So, to that end, I'm going to refer to the... carefully. I'm going to refer to the pattern under here, just take some measurements and transfer them onto the necks, and then I can get carving. And that is where we are leaving things for the day. Thank you to everybody for following along with all of that, and make sure you stay tuned for the next episode where I will be sharing all of my secrets about how to make pickups. In the meantime though, thank you for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I will see you very soon. Thank you.